so fine, oh lady.
Yes, I'm back. Hey guys. So I forgot that I had to take my wife to an appointment today. She has some issues with one of her eyes that isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. We found out it's something that she's had since she was a child. She just didn't know it, and no one had ever looked at her retina before. And so out of precaution, we had to take her to a retina specialist who said, oh, those are just some things that you probably had since you were born, type of freckles and things like that. So anyway, welcome to the Morning Night Live, which is really the afternoon night live still. And I kind of look the same. We're in the same clothes, same hat, or earphones and stuff. So let's just kind of pick up where we left off, and we're going to just go with it, okay? But since it is a new show, I'll say hi to the people who are here. Good morning, or good afternoon, because it's afternoon where I live. How you doing? All you need, Gunfox61, Mike Savage, Blarg, Diesel Dave. Oh, wait a minute. Almost forgot. I forgot the important thing here. See, when I do this show, I got to make sure when the truckers are on, I can make trucker sounds. That's for Diesel Dave. Chicago Mike, what's up? Gunfox61, I already said that. Jonathan Peterson. Who else is here? Green Badger Outdoors. Sean, Bosch Tube, Asen, Green Badger Outdoors. I just said that before. Okay, so I'm going to be saying some names twice. There's not a whole lot of you here, but that's okay. I'm here, you're here, and that's all we need. Kind of like all you need is the first one in the chat who gets the bell for being the first one this afternoon. And let's just roll with it. All right, so do I play the intro? I'll play the intro just because. Here, play the intro, Johnny.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawgKnight.
All right, stop the music. Let's see if this is a little better. Said it's a little quiet, huh? Well, let's turn a couple things up and see if that helps. Ding, ding, ding. There we go. That looks like the levels are coming up. Now he's fully quiet. Mute if you will. What do you mean I'm fully quiet? Anyway, did that help? Am I louder now? Oh, that was on your end. Oh, okay. Well, turn the volume up. I didn't think it was all that quiet. Anyway, good morning or afternoon or whatever the hell it is. Welcome to the Morning Light Live in the afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon, Thomas Cleaver, or good evening, Thomas Cleaver, because you're running in those evening hours. And no, you're not first, but that's okay. I'll let you say first, and we'll be all good. Hello, Mystic Forest. Nice to see you. All right, let's. We're gonna get back to where we were, because this morning we were talking about the insurrection and what it's done to our country, because you know that fake ass insurrection. Look, here's the thing, it's not an insurrection unless someone comes in with guns blazing, and no one's interested in doing that, and no one was interested in doing that on January 6th. But they really want to take this in a place where they can say, look, we're out hunting Republicans, these Republican bad guys, or these Trumpist bad guys and stuff. And honestly, it wasn't even about that. They just wanted to have a fair shake at checking out the ballots and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, whether or not that is, if that's really a problem or not, and a lot of people think it is. And so really, if you're one of those people who thinks that the election was pristine and perfect and everything, well, then an audit of certain ballots in certain states shouldn't bother you at all. It'd be like, well, okay, nothing. There you go. First in, best dressed. I got you, Thomas Cleaver. So anyway, so now we were talking about this when I left, how the Biden administration is asking Americans to report potentially radicalized friends and family. Oh, good Lord. It's like, we were talking about this, how I mean, this has remnants of the brown shirts, the people who are turning in. Well, I shouldn't go Godwin on you, but or communist countries. You're telling your neighbors because then you won't get in trouble, right? Hello, MC.
Stop. Hammer time.
Also, hello, Jaded Emerald. So, anyway, President Joe Biden's administration announced their plans to create ways for Americans to report radicalized friends and family to the government in an effort to fight domestic terrorism. Now, is that going to include your friends and family who are members of, or excuse me, I know it's not a group, but participants of Antifa? Are they? Is that because that's domestic terrorism? In fact, that is the epitome of domestic terrorism. They do violence in order to create a political to change things politically, and that's what they want, and that's why they tend to wreak havoc. Does it include them? President Joe Biden's administration. Anyway, we will work to improve public awareness of federal resources to address concerning or threatening behavior before violence occurs. Really? Is that going to take place? Is that going to happen everywhere? I don't know. The official side of the Department of Homeland Security is "If you see something, say something" campaign to help stop radical Islamic terror as a domestic possibility. This involves creating context in which those who are our family members or friends or coworkers who know there are pathways and avenues to raise concern and seek help for those who they have perceived to be radicalizing and potentially radicalizing towards violence, the official said. Well, where are they? And look, they can point to one day where some things got out of hand in Washington, D.C. as far as a certain ideology, but you know what? They can point to hundreds of days when you go look on the opposite side. And I'm not saying whataboutism, but, well, whataboutism, you know what I mean? Anyway, so Biden began his presidency with a stark warning in his inauguration speech about the rise of political extremism, white supremacy,
You're fucking a white man!
and domestic terrorism that we must confront and will defeat. On June 1st, Biden described the threat from white supremacy
You're fucking a white man!
as the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Now, really? Now, let's analyze this, because they keep saying this, and yet I know that if you go over let's go over the list of the last 12 months, because they keep saying there's this rise in white supremacy and radical whatever behavior, but which side of this aisle has killed more people? I'm just saying. You got to be kidding. Good morning, or good afternoon, King on Common Law. Just listening to the band War, old Timmy shit, and wondering what happened to the show today. And here you are. Well, yeah, I had to cut the show off early today because I had to take my wife to an eye doctor appointment, a specialist. She has some issues with her retina on one of her eyes, and we're finding out that it might be something that's been there for years that she didn't know about. So we're fortunate it's not any kind of retinal cancer or anything like that. So anyway, now the Biden administration also said it would work with large technology companies on increasing information sharing to help combat radicalization. So the tech companies are going to be spying on you too. Great. Fucking fantastic. Monkey, what's happening, my friend? Nice to see you here. And also Mystic Forest, what's happening? Thank you, Chicago Mike, with the $3.99, who says, so we have returned to McCarthyism and reporting communism. Yeah, pretty much. Go tell on your neighbors if they have the wrong think, right? So anyway, now, he continues here. Any particular tech company often knows its own platform very well, the official noted, but the government sees things, actually threats of violence across platforms. They see the relationship between online recruitment, radicalization, and violence in the physical world. Well, yeah, every day out in, what's it called? Portland? for damn over a year now. 65. Well, that's 65 Actually, we're in 65 weeks of 15 days to slow the spread. But I digress. So anyway, this is just insane. It's just insane. They literally are trying to get you to tell on your neighbors, tell on your I mean, look, friends and family, they say. Your friends and your family. So let's say some of my very liberal family, because I have wings of my family who are super, super duper liberal. And if they see my show and say that I say something bad about Dr. Anthony Fauci, whatever, does that make me a radical? Does that make me a dangerous person? By the way, Fauci should be in jail. In fact, I saw, what did I just see? I just watched a video of Joe Rogan. He was interviewing the two from the Hill, Sagar and Crystal Ball. And they were talking about how the funding goes and stuff like that, and how if you're a researcher at a university, you're very dependent on the National Institute of Health and NIAID. Why I'm going off into this tangent, I don't know. But I'm surprised that YouTube is allowing that little section of the Joe Rogan show to play, because can that be considered disinformation? I don't know. Thank you, Mystic Forest, with the 5 spot. Here's a treat for you. Enjoy. Well, thank you very much. I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to play my first round of golf this year with my son this afternoon. So I will buy my son a beer with that extra $5. I appreciate that. And thank you for sponsoring the show. If you want to sponsor the show, YouTube, Super Chats, Streamlabs, all that stuff, you know how it works. Also, good morning or good afternoon, Furry Kitten and John Arnott. Nice to see you here. So on that note, and here's the thing, this is a narrative. So we talked about articles this morning, and I'll put all these in the link down below, where I'll have a single link with all these articles. But the ones we went over this morning, we were talking about how Democrats are kind of waging war on conservatives. This American Thinker piece from this morning, and January 6th being their chief weapon. That'll be there. Also, now this is from The Last Refuge. Attorney General Merrick Garland announces DAG, which is Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, will lead a DOJ effort to frame political opposition as domestic terrorists, equates January 6 DC protest to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. Now that's embarrassing. Okay. Well, let's get into this article. To compare the two is just ludicrous. If you want to compare it to something, how about comparing it to when the Weather Underground tried to bomb the Capitol in 1971, or when the Senate building was bombed in 1985, or when 6 or 5 congressmen were shot from the gallery in 1951. It's nonsense, okay? Oh, well, thank you, John Arnott, for the 5 spot through YouTube Super Chat, who says, buy one for yourself too. Well, I will do that. I will enjoy a beer. Thank you very much for sponsoring the show. I appreciate it. So this article, the coordination of narrative engineering across all agencies of the U.S. government is quite remarkable. Today, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced that Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco from Obama's crew will lead a whole government effort to label any political opposition to the Biden regime as domestic terrorist. Hello, Humble Clay. To facilitate that objective, Garland announced that DAG Monaco is reconstituting the Domestic Terrorism Executive Committee. What does that sound like? That sounds like something right out of the 50s and 60s with Senator McCarthy, doesn't it? It's an investigative agency process used in the aftermath of the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. Additionally, Garland is noting that the January 6th Capitol Hill protest was the current equivalent of the 1995 bombing that killed 168 people and injured 680. Now, help me out here, people. I do not recall the events on January 6th at Capitol Hill. I can't remember. was there a lot of people killed in that thing? I don't remember that. It's not registering in my head. Because in Oklahoma City, 168 people killed, 680 injured. A third of the building came down. January 6th was that bad? I mean, okay, so let's do this again. We got the Oklahoma City bombing. We got the 1971 bombing at in the Capitol by the Weather Underground. We've got the 1985 bombing of the Senate. We've got the 1954 or 55, or maybe it's 51, when there's Congress people shot from the gallery in the House of Representatives. And we have January 6th, 2019, where it was kind of a riot, but now we're finding out that maybe, just maybe, there were some FBI agents kind of, if not leading, kind of facilitating and planting things in people's heads. I gotta sing the song. You know what song I'm about to sing? You bet you don't know. What song am I about to sing? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. If you tell me which thing is not like the other before I finish my song. In fact, I would even throw in the shooting of the baseball field, the congressional baseball practice. Remember? Someone was shot, a congressman was shot there. They're saying that this guy's nuts. Listen to this. All right, let's see. How long is this? Oh, this is that one that's like 27 minutes long. We're not watching Merrick Garland for that long. Hell no. Anyway, good afternoon, TC, and good afternoon, Pat. What's up, my man? All right. So the purpose of this announcement should be crystal clear to everyone. We discussed and outlined the background previously. In the background of these maneuvers, big tech and corporate media have been instructed to push the domestic extremist narrative, and any truth tellers are considered subversive, i.e. against the interests of the U.S. government. The January 6th D.C. protest is being used as evidence for that narrative, deplatforming censorship, ultimately control of voices who would warn of the larger issues continues daily. Let's be clear, stop and hear the drum. It is a drum beat. It's a constant drum beat. Something is about to happen. Approximately 100 million American voters are considered dissidents now. So anyway, there's this goes on and talking about how the White House is now, or under federal law, how it defines domestic terrorism. So here it is. It's defined as activities that involve acts, danger. Oh, Jonathan K. Thank you for subscribing. Welcome to the channel. All right. Okay. So under federal law, domestic terrorism is defined as activities that involved acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of criminal laws of the United States or of any state, appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce civilian populations, to influence the policy of government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping, and occur primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. So every time we have a new Supreme Court justice and they storm the Senate building and try to break in, because that was kind of violent, and they tried to occupy the Senate. In fact, they did occupy the Senate offices that time. So the review is rooted in an expert assessment of domestic terrorism threat provided by the intelligence and law enforcement communities. The unclassified summary of what the assessment was released in March, so the public could see the key findings. It found that the two most lethal elements of today's domestic terrorism threat are: one, radically or ethnically motivated violent extremists who advocate for superiority of the white race. Really, where are those people? I'm not seeing those people. They keep talking about it, but any of you, seriously, any of you got examples of this? Pretty freaking rare compared to any other kind of violence that you see in this country. And two, anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, such as militia violence extremists. So they kind of throw in the old, militia thing, right? Because you know, the militias are the white guys up in Michigan who are going to kidnap the governor, right? Remember, except for that 2/3 of those were FBI agents. Hello, Yoshi the Macabre. Nice to have you on the show. By the way, if you are new here, make sure you hit the like button and share button and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell so that you get notifications. So anyway, this goes a lot deeper into this, but I'm going to move on because this is just to catch up from this morning's show. By the way, normally the Morning Live is 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for you people in other parts of the world who use that thing. And I do this on Monday through Friday, right? Okay, so all right, let's go. I'm going to move on to something else here. Oh, and so when I said this is a full court press, not just by the Justice Department, not just the U.S. military, not just the Attorney General. And here's the Washington Examiner article where he compares it to. Here, I'm going to refresh this, see if they have a short clip of him saying this BS. Just a second here. And also occupied Pelosi's office for green reasons. AOC brought them snacks. Yeah, remember that? Yeah, it's not the first time that some not uninvited guests were hanging out in Nancy Pelosi's office. Remember that? When the Green New Deal people were there? All right, let's see. Is this the one? Let me see if this is it. No, this is a Kona Brewing commercial. The two big giant Hawaiian dudes selling beer. Have you ever had Big Wave? That's a good beer. I love that stuff. Anyway, let's see if this, skip ad. Here we go. How long is this? Wait, huh?
And it involves altering a
Okay, that's not it. Anyway, Attorney General Merrick Garland compared the Oklahoma City bombing of 1995 to the Capitol riot of January 6th when unveiling the Justice Department's response to the Biden administration's new anti-domestic terrorism strategy. The domestic terrorist truck bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah federal building in Oklahoma City, carried out by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, wounded hundreds of individuals and killed at least 168 people, including 19 children and babies who had been in the building's daycare center. The D.C. medical examiners determined that Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick's cause of death the day after responding to the January 6th riot was a stroke, and that his manner of death was natural. 2 others in the crowd died of heart problems, another died of drug overdose, and a Trump supporter, an Air Force veteran, Ashley Babbitt, was shot and killed by a yet unnamed police officer as she attempted to climb through a broken window into the House Speaker's lobby. At the Justice Department, the Deputy Attorney General and I have already begun implementing a range of measures. Among other things, we have begun to reinvigorate the Domestic Terrorism Executive Committee. Remember, that's what they used at the Oklahoma City bombing. And we will convene that interagency body in the coming days and months, Garland said on Tuesday. Attorney General Janet Reno originally created the executive committee in the aftermath of the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. The investigation of that bombing, which required an enormous commitment of resources from agencies across federal and state governments, demonstrated the importance of such a coordination mechanism. Now, I don't know is it just me when I hear the name Janet Reno? I think perhaps that might be the last attorney general in the history of attorney generals that I would want to emulate. But anyway, Garland continued, our current effort comes on the heels of another large and heinous attack. This time, the January 6th assault on our nation's capital. We have now, as we had then, an enormous task ahead to move forward as a country, to punish the perpetrators, to do everything possible to prevent similar attacks, and to do so in a manner that affirms the values in which our justice system is founded and upon which our democracy depends. There's that word democracy again. We're a representative republic. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, the resolve and dedication with which the Justice Department's approach to the investigation of the January 6th attacks reflects the seriousness with which we take this assault on a mainstay of our democratic system, the peaceful transfer of power. But wait a minute. And that's not the only riot that's been attacking the U.S. I mean, look, when Brett Kavanaugh, again, I'm going to go back to Kavanaugh. When the people were pounding on the Senate, on the Supreme Court doors, and they took over the Senate building. Was anyone talking about a government function, the kind of peaceful transfer of whatever the hell we do. I don't know. It's insanity. So, but again, this is across all ages. So now I look. Oh, by the way, thank you, GunFox61, for the almost 5, aka $4.99. Says, yeah, they are sounding like Stalin or Mao here. Maybe, just maybe, the little man with the funny mustache. Yeah. You know who the little guy, the dude with the little funny mustache is, right? But no Godwin Awards here. Thank you, GunFox61, for sponsoring the show. And GunFox,
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Sponsor of the Day.
Thank you, sir, for sponsoring the show. If you sponsor the Streamlabs, you might get that noise come up if you end up being the sponsor of the day. And right now it's GunFox61. So thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Okay, so but this is so insidious. So here's the Washington Post. Here's an editorial from the Washington Post. Is this yesterday? No, this is from yesterday. Because this is all about Trump. This is a full court press to try to create a situation where Donald Trump is the cause of everything wrong in America. And if you saw some of the, oh my gosh, if you've seen our current president and his travels to Europe and his meeting with Putin and all the stuff that's going on over there, you go, oh my God, I like me not being the biggest Trump fan, but I did vote for him this time. And I go, oh my God, can we please have that, at least have that guy back? Because this guy's, holy shit, this is crazy. Anyway, hey, James Colley, how you doing? Nice to see you. D. Afraid to Watch, welcome to the show. Nice to see you too. And I need a what? I need a desktop streaming system. What are you talking about? This is a desktop streaming system. I think it is. Anyway, all right. So this is the opinion in the Washington Post from yesterday, and this is again, it's all about Donald Trump right now. So they say the nation cannot forget Donald Trump's betrayal of his oath. Now, again, if this is the Washington Post, 24/7 Trump bad, right? And they can't quit him for some reason because they can't sell newspapers without mentioning Donald Trump. Hello, Katie Didskate. Did I say hi to TC? TC, hello to you too. I don't know if I even said it, but good to see you again. So here it is. Here's what this is about. And the Washington Post is dutifully towing the line of Merrick Garland and Joe Biden and everybody else in the Democratic media, which is redundant. Many Republicans want the nation. Oh, and they start with many Republicans want the nation to ignore and forget President Donald Trump's poisonous final month in office. Really? Compared to the first few months of Joe Biden, I'm not so much. Anyway, listen to this. Hello, Madman. The most dangerous moment in modern political history. Orchestrated by the man to whom the GOP still swears allegiance. Yet, the country must not forget how close it came to a full-blown constitutional crisis, or worse. Tuesday brought another reminder that, but for the principled resistance of some key officials, the consequences could have been disastrous. The House Committee on Oversight and Reform Tuesday released emails showing that the White House waged a behind-the-scenes effort to enlist the Justice Department in its crusade to advance Mr. Trump's baseless allegations of fraud in the 2020 election. All right, let's stop right there. When they say baseless, what they mean in reality is don't look over there. That's what they mean, okay? Hello, Faithless. Hello, Sarah. What they mean is don't look over there. Because look, you can say that Joe Biden legitimately won the presidency, and you could say that and still say that the idea that this was baseless is ludicrous. In what, 7 or 8 different states, they had testimony of people saying that there were issues with the election. Now, whether or not they would have changed elections is irrelevant. The idea that it's baseless, they saw all these hearings in all these states. And, so now what they'll do is they'll say, oh, well, none of the court case, Donald Trump lost every court case on the election. No, he didn't. None of them went to court. They all had, not a single case went to court on the merits of the allegations. They were all, this is not our jurisdiction. This is, you're in the, you waited too long, this and that and the third, whatever. So, but just the fact that there are people who testified that they saw things. And so is that a baseless allegation? Even if it wouldn't have changed the election, is it a baseless allegation? No. But that's their new word. Anything that Donald Trump says, they'll say without evidence, baseless, pulling it straight out of his pine parts. They don't say that, but that's what basically they're trying to say. Anyway, on December 14th, 10 days before Jeffrey Rosen took over as acting attorney general, Trump's assistants emailed Mr. Rosen asserting Dominion voting system machines in Michigan were intentionally fixed and pointing to a debunked analysis showing that the machines can and did do to move votes. The email declared, "We believe it has happened everywhere." So there was that one county in Michigan where it actually happened. So maybe it wasn't a baseless charge. Hello, nice to see you. Later that month, Mr. Trump's assistant sent Rosen a brief that the president apparently wanted the Justice Department to submit to the Supreme Court. The draft mirrored the empty arguments that the state of Texas made to the court before the justices dismissed the state's lawsuit. Oh, you mean they dismissed the suit? Why did they dismiss the suit? Not for lack of evidence, just for, never mind. Piling on the pressure. Then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows also dispatched an email asking Mr. Rosen to examine allegations of voter fraud in Georgia. Funny about that. A funny little thing about that. Aren't they about to do a little audit of some ballots in Georgia? I wonder why they're doing that. Is it just because they all love Trump so much, or are they just because isn't that the state where they said they had thousands of mail-in ballots that all looked exactly the same and looked like they were printed and they weren't folded? How do you do a mail-in ballot, hundreds of mail-in ballots that look exactly the same with perfectly filled in circles that aren't folded? Mail-in ballots, not folded. Mail-in ballots, not folded. No folds. So they're going to look at that too. We'll see what happens. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. If you think the election was perfect and pristine, you should not be worried about it, right? Anyway. A day later, Mr. Meadows apparently forwarded Mr. Rosen a video alleging that Italians use satellites to manipulate voting equipment. These were just some of the preposterous White House emails claiming fraud in arguably the most secure presidential election ever. Wait a minute. They like saying that too, because some moron in the FBI said, oh, this is probably the most secure election ever. Secure how? So there's an issue with the, in Georgia, the other problem they have, the drop boxes, remember that? All the drop box voting boxes. How is that secure? How exactly are drop box voting, place where you just put your ballots in the drop box? How is that secure? How do you know when you have, because all these Epstein ballots, right? Hello, Piccolo, what's up? All my truckers get the horn. How do drop boxes, how is that secure? So do they monitor the drop boxes 24/7 with cameras to make sure that nobody comes back twice? Or they monitor all the drop boxes in every precinct in the city so that someone doesn't go in and drop ballots into multiple drop boxes? How is that the most secure presidential election ever? And I'm not saying that I'm not saying it wasn't fair and overturned. It can't be overturned. I don't care about that. But the idea that it's the most secure election ever, get the F out of here. Anyway, Pigallo, thank you for the deuce and Canadian And Canadian money, appreciate it. As secure as a swap meet. Yeah. That's funny. As secure as a swap meet. Anyway, to his credit, Mr. Rosen rebuffed the White House's entreaties to deploy the Justice Department's vast powers on behalf of Mr. Trump's lie, adding his name to the roster of honorable state and federal officials who showed fidelity to the truth and duty at that crucial moment. So the only way that you have fidelity and truth is if you oppose Trump. See what they did there? See that? And I don't care what you think of Trump. Again, I'm not a Trump fan. I just think he would have made a better president than Joe Biden. And he was a pretty decent president, while he was in there. At least the results were much better than we're getting now. Anyway, some have paid with their jobs. Republican committed to the big lie, and they keep saying this big lie. It's funny. They're not supposed to make references to the regime of the guy with the funny mustache, but they keep using this term, the big lie. I think a lot of journalists in the United States should be getting Godwin Awards. If you're not sure what Godwin is, look that one up. We need to make a reference to the guy with the funny mustache. Anyway, Republicans committed to the big lie are gunning to replace others, including those with vote counting responsibilities. If Mr. Trump or another candidate again presses false fraud claims, many Republican officials may find it more difficult to resist the pressure to back the lie, or indeed may eagerly participate in advancing it. Now, again, oh my God, this is written by Jennifer Rubin's not happy with Merrick Garland. Anyway, given Mr. Trump's reckless actions after losing the 2020 vote and the violence they spurred, you mean the 2-hour selfie insurrection at the Capitol building? Because I'm not trying to find out where the rest of this violence is that they spurred. I'm just curious. The newly released emails are unsurprising, but consider that fact for a moment. It is unsurprising that the President of the United States leaned on the Justice Department to help him try to steal an election. I'm trying to figure out if any other presidents ever used the Justice Department for their own nefarious purposes. Fast and Furious. Anyway, the country cannot forget that Mr. Trump betrayed his oath. Why? Is it a betrayal of your oath to question things? Why would that be a betrayal of your oath? If you truly believe that something nefarious happened in an election and you try to do something about it, why would that be a betrayal of your oath? I don't understand, Washington Post. I don't understand. If he truly believed that there was something nefarious about the election and he points it out, wouldn't it be his duty as the President of the United States to point that out? Now, of course, you guys say it's a lie. With, what did he say? What was the word they used? Baseless. And yet, there are people all over the country testifying in state houses of things they saw that they thought were wrong. Now, again, I'm not even saying that it would have changed the election. I'm just saying, is one case of voter fraud okay? Or is it the goal to eliminate all cases of voter fraud? A lot of people with fake addresses, 15,000 in Nevada. Lots of dead people voting in many states, kind of like this 60 Chicago election. And again, those seemingly photocopy ballots in Georgia that they're about to look at. Just curious, but the full court press is making it about Trump. All right, let's keep going. Let's see what I got here. Oh, and then again, the Biden administration unveils strategy to combat domestic terrorism, labels white supremacy.
You're fucking a white male!
As a lethal threat. Rusty Shaq, what is up? Nice to see you back in the game. All right, nice to see you here. President Joe Biden's administration announced a new national strategy for countering terrorism, that focus in part on white supremacy, declared to be a lethal threat on Tuesday. The initiative follows a review directed by Biden to his national security team of how the government addresses domestic terrorism. The national strategy for countering domestic terrorism aims to bolster the government response to such incidents, according to the White House press release. Quote, the review was rooted in an expert assessment of the domestic terrorism threat provided by the intelligence and law enforcement communities, the White House noted. An unclassified summary of that assessment was released in March so the public could see the key findings. It found that the two most lethal elements of today's domestic terrorism threat are, one, racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists who advocate for the superiority of the right race. We read this one before, and I'm still trying to figure out where those are. We've been seeing a lot of violent, what do they say? Racially or ethnically motivated violence that were done by non-white people. So I'm trying to figure out, where is it? And then two, the anti-government, anti-authority violent extremists, such as militia violent extremists. Again, where are the militias out there that are causing a bunch of violence? I don't know. Now, you know damn well, if, for example, some militia violent extremists, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about people like the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys or the 3 Percenters and things like that. But I've yet to see any huge, because you know damn well, if one of the person from one of those groups, even if they're tangentially related to one of those groups, does something that causes violence to another person, regardless of race, that is going to be blown up in the media as if it was happening every day. When we know the things that are actually happening every day, they're not talking about it anymore because they're not fitting the narrative. You know what? How many of you heard about the, was a 6-year-old that was ended by a man because the 6-year-old had his bike in the guy's yard? It just happened recently. Now, there's a reason why you probably haven't heard of it. One, the deceased young child was black, but the perpetrator was not white. So no one's talking about it. Remember, if you were here a few days ago, Canon Hotep brought this up. It was an Asian man. Now we're talking about what did I say? What did I say? An Asian man? Wait a minute, but we're supposed to be experiencing all sorts of Asian hate right now because that was the big thing a while ago, except the problem is that the Asian hate wasn't being perpetrated by white people. So you don't hear about the Asian hate crimes anymore. Hate crimes against the AIP. What is the Asian AIPI, Pacific Islanders, right? Notice you're not hearing about that. That was all the rage a while ago. And then they figured out, oh, wait a minute, about 60% of those crimes were perpetrated by people of color. So they stopped talking about it. But then this kid, point blank, right in front of his sister. Hi, Renee Miette. Hi, Jesse Leon. Hi. Who else did I miss here? There was somebody I just came. Oh, Tri Deos. How you doing? Nice to see y'all here. So anyway, but you're not hearing about that, right? But oh, no. The anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists. Do you think if anyone tangentially related to one of those groups did something like that it would be all over the news 24/7? You know, I'm surprised too, because there was an incident in Canada the other day where a person drove their car into a Muslim family. And that was terrible. It was, and fuck that guy too. But the funny thing is, I watched who was it? Wahat Pajai, whatever the guy. They had a segment about it on MSNBC, and these two guys were talking about the extremists in America and how this, the Islamophobic acts of terror, Islamophobia. How Islamophobia is the root cause of these things, and they came up with the 2 examples, and one of them was this thing that happened in Canada, right? And they were blaming Donald Trump for this family that got run down by some asshole in Canada. And I was thinking to myself, say what? That was the only example they had. But that was, yes, Donald Trump spurring the anti-Islamic hate, right? Well, wait a minute. First of all, this happened like a week ago, June 2021. Donald Trump is not in office. Donald Trump isn't even allowed to be on any social media. This happened in June 2021. Donald Trump hasn't been president for 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, the Islamic family, the Muslim family in Canada who got run down by some people, that's Joe Biden's America in Canada. Picalo says they are also ignoring the family that was hit the day before in the exact same manner. I missed that one. I didn't even hear about that because you don't hear about it. Let me guess, Picalo. Let me guess here. The family that was hit the day before in the exact same manner. I'm going to guess that they were not Muslim. Am I correct? 15 months if you listen to. Was the other family that was hit this day before, were they Muslim? And we didn't hear about them? I'm just curious. You can answer that while I'm paging along here. So anyway, what did I save here? Oh, and if you haven't seen this piece from Tucker Carlson regarding the January 6th and the FBI agents that were involved, I'm going to leave this here. I had the article from Revolver. We read that earlier today, and it's pretty amazing. Oh, what is Amy Klobuchar? Questions the declaration about infiltration. What?
And they show up, we now know, in this complaint.
Hang on a second. Let's listen to my senator ask questions to FBI director. Because this is part of this thing where listen to Amy Klobuchar's question. Hello, Evan. What's up, man? He's the Satan figure in their new statist religion. Okay. Trump conspired to commit every crime ever, everywhere, all the time. Yes, he did, Trusty Shaq. All right, so this article, and this will be in the link. I have a link that'll have all the articles, videos, and whatever in the description at the end of this broadcast. Here's Amy Klobuchar, my senator from the great state of Minnesota, asking Christopher Wray a very interesting question here, and listen to his answer.
And they show up, we now know, in this complaint with encrypted two-way Chinese radios and military gear there must be moments where you think, if we would have known, if we could have.
Whoa. If we would have known. Listen, think about that right now. Think about that. If we would have known.
Infiltrated this group or found out what they were doing. And that.
If we would have infiltrated this group and found out what they were doing. Listen carefully.
Do you have those moments?
Absolutely. I will tell you, Senator, this is something I feel passionately about. That anytime there's an attack.
Wait a minute.
Our standard at the FBI is we aim to bat 1,000.
Wait a minute.
Right? And we aim to thwart every attack that's out there.
Really?
So anytime there's an attack, especially one that's this horrific, that strikes right at the heart of our system of government, right at the time transfer of power is being discussed, you can be darn tootin' that we are focused very, very hard on how can we get better sources, better information, better analysis, so that we can make sure that something like what happened on January 6th never happens again.
Okay.
Whoa, wait, if? What do you mean if? Now, Christopher Wray able to uncomfortably weasel his way out of answering the question directly, particularly because Klobuchar does him the courtesy of not asking him the question directly. Klobuchar instead asked the FBI director if he wishes he had infiltrated the military organizations allegedly involved in the 1/6, whatever you call it. Hello, Miguel. Nice to see you. Welcome. If an Eskimo calls me a beaner, is that racism? It depends on how much power the Eskimo has, but no, because the Eskimos aren't white. I don't know. I don't know. Thank you for asking, though, and welcome to the show. Okay, assuming from the outset that there was, in fact, no infiltration, therefore, okay, her question is assuming from the outset that there was, in fact, no infiltration, thereby providing the FBI director an easy way to avoid addressing the question one way or another. Except they know that these groups have been infiltrated. The FBI knew that this was coming. It's just so much bullshit. So anyway, I'm not going to play it, but Tucker Carlson's first 9 minutes and 18 seconds in this link right here, where he goes through this Revolver article talking about how there were probably the unindicted co-conspirators. Think about that phrase when they're talking about this January 6th thing. There were FBI agents that had infiltrated and were, well, you'll hear more about that soon because everyone's busted on Carlson for that. But you can watch this one on your own. All right, let's see here. And then again, Biden's domestic terror agenda confirms conservatives' worst fears. On Tuesday, President Joe Biden released a blueprint for his new war on terror, the National Strategy for Countering Domestic Terrorism. Again, this is another article on this. The Biden White House pledges that the administration will combat domestic terrorism while vigilantly safeguarding peaceful expression of a wide range of views of freedom and political association. Can I just call bullshit? Anyway, yet the administration biases give conservatives good reason to doubt this pledge. The White House claims that the two most lethal elements of domestic terrorism are racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists who advocate for the superiority of the white race and anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists. We already talked about this. The document lays out 4 elements of the strategy to fight domestic terrorism. 1, sharing domestic terrorism analysis at the level of government and occasionally with the private sector. There we go, using that. What's that called? When the government uses the private sector to take on the government's responsibility so that they don't have to break any laws. Oh, fascism. Oh, didn't I say I wanted to make a song called Fascism to the tune of Queen's Bicycle? Fascism. I want to kill the fascism. I want to stop it now. Anyway, so sharing domestic terrorism analysis at all levels of government, occasionally with the private sector, that's 1. 2, preventing domestic terrorism recruitment and mobilization to violence. 3, disrupting and deterring domestic terrorism activity. And 4, confronting long-term contributors to domestic terrorism. That sounds just like Antifa to me, but hey, I digress. Each element should raise alarms for conservatives and Republicans, given the Biden administration's hyperbolic rhetoric on racism at the Capitol. The selfie insurrection. Biden has condemned common sense election reform as Jim Crow on steroids, except he said Jim Eagle, and said the Capitol riot was worse than the Lincoln assassination, the John F. Kennedy assassination, and multiple violent attacks on the U.S. Capitol, because he said it was the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. I could use that as a clown horn. I need a clown horn. That's my party horn. I need a clown horn. You know what I mean? The Biden White House pledged to share domestic terrorism data throughout law enforcement at the federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial levels seems innocent enough. However, the document states that the Treasury Department is exploring ways to enhance the identification and analysis of financial activity of domestic terrorists. Sounds like, what do they call that when they take your shit just for no reason? There's a name for that. Someone put that name, the word. It's when they, what do they call it? Something seizure, something. Tell me, somebody in the chat, tell me what that's called. I'm blanking out. Anyway, while this makes sense to throttle terrorist organizations that raise money for violence, this targeting of financial activity seems reminiscent of the Southern Poverty Law Center's attempts to cut off conservative groups from charitable funding by branding them hate groups and listing them alongside the Ku Klux Klan. In March, an information leak at a crowdfunding website led to a witch hunt against police officers who contributed to the legal defense fund of Kyle Rittenhouse. Biden's plan also pledges to prevent domestic terrorism recruitment, an extremely ambitious goal, by targeting, quote, online terrorist recruitment and mobilization, end quote, and, quote, eliminating terrorist content online while safeguarding the freedom of online expression. Really now? While safeguarding the freedom of online expression, but you're eliminating terrorist content online. What does that mean? What does that even mean? Thank you to Right Deos with the top donation of the day so far. This should scare everyone in the States, as they will pick and choose who they want to silence, not just conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans. Right. They'll consider the anti-war left gets targeted just as much as the conservative right. You know, and that's what happens on social media. The anti-war left is because, you know, those big war machine companies can't have you have anti-war left out there either, right? Anyway, ironically, the president from the very Democratic Party that swelled with chants of defund the police last summer pledged to allocate over $77 million to state, local, tribal, and territorial partners to prevent, protect against, and respond to domestic violent extremism. This Democratic president will increase funding for law enforcement so long as the police are pushing this new war on terror. The Biden document also calls for more than $100 million in additional resources for the DOJ, FBI, and DHS for this effort. Yes, we're not weaponizing these alphabet agencies for any political purposes. No, not at all.
How dare you?
Anyway, when it comes to disrupting and deterring domestic terrorism, the Biden document touts new employee screening to enhance methods for identifying domestic terrorists who might pose as insider threats, AKA they just want to see who you voted for. Similarly, the Department of Defense, DOJ, and DHS aim to ensure domestic terrorists are not employed within our military or law enforcement ranks. Yes. By the way, morale in the military is dropping vastly, quickly, whatever, thanks to this kind of thing, and also the I wouldn't. Well, let's just say diversity training, okay? Because the diversity training's getting a little out there too. Anyway. Whistleblowers in the military have warned that these efforts to combat extremism have pushed critical race theory and demonized white people. Various training materials used for extremism training pit service members against one another and suggest that conservative views are dangerous. And that's really a problem, because in the military you can't have conservatives and liberals and whatever. You got to have a unit that is completely they need to have cohesive units, and right now they're doing that oppressor and oppressed thing in the military now, and everyone should be oppressed in the military because everyone should just be able to react immediately. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. You just got to be able to shoot straight and have your shit, have your brain straight and be ready to react when you need to. And if you think that the second lieutenant who's leading your platoon, if he's white and he's oppressing you, then you don't have a good cohesion in your military. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, yet the fourth pillar of Biden's domestic terror agenda, quote, confront long-term contributors to domestic terrorism may be the most chilling. Every component of the government has a role to play in rooting out racism and bigotry, this is a quote, and advancing equity. There's that word. If you hear the word equity, you need to run. Equity for all Americans. This section of the fact sheet reads, the U.S. government, in close partnership with civil society, civil society will address the long-term contributors that are responsible for much of today's domestic terrorism. Really? The little black-clad LARPers in, well, mostly in the West Coast, but really? Are you looking at them? I bet you're not. Hello, Tyler. How you doing? While it makes sense to study the ideologies beyond acts of violence, the Biden administration's bias focus on specific types of terrorism that will result in a dangerous double standard. Nowhere does the document mention radical Islam, the ideology behind the Pulse nightclub shooting and the September 11, 2001 attacks, or the demonization of police, the motive behind the Dallas shootings in 2016. In fact, the document references a long list of terrorist attacks focusing on the white supremacist terror of the Ku Klux Klan and claiming that in recent years, we've seen a resurgence of this and related threats in one horrific incident after another. Really? The document mentions the Dallas shooter who appears to have been inspired by the Black Lives. Oh, it does mention him. Appears to have been inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement to assassinate police officers he assumed were white, but it describes this shooter as an anti-authority violent extremist. So they can't say what he is. He can't say he was motivated by Black Lives Matter. He's an anti-authority extremist. So they probably don't even mention his race. Similarly, it mentions the congressional baseball game shooting in 2017 in which a leftist terrorist attempted to assassinate Republican members of Congress, but the document describes the shooter as a lone gunman. Oh, you mean he's not inspired by Bernard Sanders of Vermont? It seems particularly curious that Biden describes white racism and militias as the key terror threats while ignoring the underlying motives of the Pulse nightclub shooting, the Dallas shooting, or the attempted assassination of Republican congressmen. Most terrifying, however, Biden pledges that the U.S. government will also work to find ways to counter the polarization often fueled by disinformation, misinformation, and dangerous conspiracy theories online. Supporting an information environment that fosters healthy, democratic discourse. Now, that seems so innocuous, right? Listen to that last part again. Supporting an information environment that fosters healthy, democratic discourse. You know what that means, right? That means censoring any information that they don't like. During the 2020 presidential election, Biden and his allies in the legacy media dismissed as information and conspiracy many claims that proved to be true. The Hunter Biden laptop and the possibility that COVID-19 leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology provide the most glaring examples of misinformation that turned out to be not misinformation. This is CNN director even told Project Veritas that his network ran propaganda to help defeat Donald Trump in 2020. When big tech and the legacy media clamped down on misinformation and conspiracy theories, this fact-checking bias disproportionately hits conservatives and conservative media. You can subscribe to, anyway, if the Biden administration is getting in on the act that bodes ill for free speech of anyone to the right of Nancy Pelosi. Now, in a speech to commemorate the Tulsa race massacre earlier this month, Biden not only compared the Capitol riot to the Tulsa massacre. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, a true act of white supremacist violence that killed at least 39 people, but he explicitly connected this through line to his upcoming broader strategy to counter domestic terrorism. This latest document confirms conservatives' fears about the tenor of the new war on terror. And I'll just put a copy of that article. The Biden administration is using the awesome might of the U.S. government to demonize conservative critics as abettors of extremist ideology, if not enemies of the state. So, what say you? Do you think that? Do you think they have pure and pristine motivation behind what they're doing, or is this just another narrative that they're continuing on with? All right, let's see what I got here. Oh, that's the speech. Yeah, if you want to, I'll have the article from June 1st by Tyler Neal about Biden's speech at Tulsa if you haven't seen that one yet. Let's see. Oh, now, Biden was meeting with the what do they call? What is Putin's official title? Is he the president of Russia? What is he? What is he? Yeah, Russian president Vladimir Putin. So, when Biden comes in and talking about how Putin's a killer and talks about human rights in Russia, Putin always comes in with a ready to slap, right? And I think Putin's an asshole, but this one, he kind of got Biden here. Putin blames U.S. government for the assassination of Ashley Babbitt turned the Capitol riot. God, he's just he's the propaganda beast. Ahead of the summit with Joe Biden and G7 in Geneva, Switzerland, Russian President Vladimir Putin implied that the U.S. government had ordered the assassination of Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed by Capitol Police during the Capitol riot on January 6. Putin made the comments during an interview with NBC News in which he argued that the United States and Russia are similar in how they handle dissent. He says, "We have a saying, don't be mad at the mirror if you are ugly," Putin said in regards to the arrest and persecution of Capitol rioters. "It has nothing to do with you personally, but if somebody blames us for something, what I say is why don't you look at yourselves? You will see yourselves in the mirror, not us." When asked about the assassinations of political rivals in his country, Putin responded by implying that the United States had assassinated Ashley Babbitt during the Capitol riot. Secondly, I would ask you, did you order the assassination of the woman who walked into the Congress and who was shot and killed by a policeman? Putin asked. Do you know that the 450 individuals were arrested after entering Congress, and they didn't go there to steal a laptop? They came with political demands. 450 people have been detained. They're facing jail time from 15 to 20 years, and they came to Congress with political demands. Isn't that prosecution for political opinions? Whew. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That's a little rough. That's a little rough. Anyway, Luna, what's up? I was trying to do it Luna, like Luna. And hello, Bosh Tube, how you doing? All right, so yeah. And then and Andrew McCabe on CNN whitewashes the far left extremist attack on the Republican baseball practice. So they talk about this Capitol riot, this is being the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War, and yet here's Andrew McCabe, disgraced former FBI agent Andrew McCabe, who repeatedly leaked information and lied about it over the course of the deep state Russia hoax, earning him a contributorship to, notice I said contributorship, at CNN, attempted to whitewash the political motivations behind the shooter at the 2017 congressional baseball practice of Republicans, while lauding Attorney General Merrick Garland's unveiled strategy to combat domestic terrorism, which in turn is an attempt to weaponize the nation's intelligence agencies to crack down on political opponents. True. McCabe, who was acting FBI director at the time of the 2017 shooting, said the Bureau failed to uncover the assailant's motives. Did they now? You mean just that he hated Republicans wasn't enough? Quote, the FBI still doesn't know exactly what the shooter was up to, McCabe said. Now, this is just BS. The shooter literally came up and asked somebody who was practicing on this field? Where are the Democrats? Where are the Republicans? And it was the Republicans practicing on that field. So he went to that field and began shooting people. And McCabe has the nerve, the balls to say that, well, the FBI still doesn't know exactly what the shooter was up to. You motherfucker. They never really uncovered the sort of detailed evidence that laid out a specific plot or objective. Good God.
Why the fuck you lying?
More likely, it is the politicized FBI run by progressive activists under McCabe refused to acknowledge the leftist motivations of the culprit who almost killed the number 2 Republican in the House. Let's see how long this clip is.
I thought it was significant. The Attorney General said very clearly that the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat right now comes from racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists. He's talking about white supremacists. But he also took care to note extremism and attacks on all political parties.
Yeah, how about the Antifa and the BLM protests where, now again, I'm not saying the people who are protesting racial injustice are the ones killing people, but there's people on the periphery of those people are. Remember I talked about the 3 groups, the people who are there to protest, people who are there to just break shit, and then the people who are the opportunists who want to steal shit, okay? Well, group 1 probably didn't kill anybody, but group 2, yeah, they've killed plenty of people, and group 3, even if they've accidentally killed people trying to get free shit, it's a problem. But those are the left, so no one talks about them. No one. This is CNN doesn't give a shit about them. But here we go.
On all races and creeds and religions. He noted the congressional baseball practice that was attacked only after the gunman had asked if they were Republicans. I thought it was significant. Did you think that was significant that he raised this?
Yeah, it was, Kate, and an incredibly deft way to bring in that other side of the equation. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? I think he came right out and said, our biggest hotspot right now is racially motivated, ethnically motivated extremists, and we all.
Oh, you mean like against Jews in New York and San Francisco?
All know that the broad majority of those are white supremacists, people targeting.
You know what, though? Listen to me carefully. If that were true, we would have example after example after example after example of those cases, and they would be all over the news every day. You'd be hearing about the Dylan Roofs every day, but they go back to Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof, what year was that? Was that like 2014? But they bring up Dylan Roof all the time because they don't have anything between then and now. Except maybe someone who tried to run over some Muslims in Canada. But I guarantee you, if you look over the last year, and the January 6th riots, which killed nobody, at least the people who were protesting killed nobody. But, it's the white extremists. Hello, Kiever Dam, how you doing? Or Dr. Keeve, same thing. Okay. 2015, okay. Yeah, it was 2015, Dylan Roof. And they still bring him up all the time because that's all they got.
People of color and immigrants and things like that.
Really?
But he brought the other side of the equation into it by referring to the shooting of the congressional baseball practice. And he did it very carefully by saying a shooting by someone who committed the shooting only after he confirmed that the players were Republicans. So
you do know what the motivation was. Oh, but you did. Okay, wait a minute, though. Let's listen to this. Hello, Ellie Prepper. How you doing?
It reflects the fact that the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooter was up to. They never really uncovered the sort of...
Whoa. What you just said. Wait a minute. Let's go back.
I think that reflects the fact that the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooter confirmed that the players were saying a shooting by someone who committed the shooting only after he confirmed that the players were Republicans.
He committed the shooting only after he confirmed the players were Republican, and then you said what?
I think that reflects the fact that the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooter was up to. They never really uncovered the sort of detailed evidence that laid out a specific plot or an objective. but it is undeniable that he was targeting Republicans.
Oh, so he's
very effective.
Wait a minute.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
You just said he was. Okay. Let me ask you this. Let's say that the baseball team that was practicing was the baseball team. Let's say the Congressional Black Caucus had a baseball team and they were out there practicing. And then you said, okay, so then there's this white guy, like, let's say it's the same shooter. Let's say the shooter. And he said, okay, hey, I see the team practicing over there. Is that the Congressional Black Caucus? And then the person says, yes, that's confirming that's the Congressional Black Caucus. And then he went, and then all of a sudden this guy went over and started shooting at everyone at the Congressional Black Caucus. Would the FBI have it? What did he say? Let's get. I'm gonna listen to this again.
Republican. So I think that reflects the fact that the FBI still doesn't exactly know what that shooter
still doesn't
was up
exactly
to.
know
They
what
never
that shooter was
really
up to.
uncovered the sort of detailed evidence that laid out a specific plot or an objective. But it is undeniable that he was targeting Republicans.
So if they would have targeted the Congressional Black Caucus, I bet they would have known. They'd have made something up. Unbelievable. Hey, again.
Why the fuck you lying?
Yeah. It's just unfathomable. It's unfathomable. And he's an analyst at CNN now. All right, let's switch gears because I'm going to try to. I want to talk a little pandemic stuff because every day I like to talk a little bit about that. So the former CDC director has revealed some thoughts, and I don't mean thoughts, but thoughts. Let's spell it right. Thoughts about the origins of the pandemic after viewing some classified intelligences from the Daily Wire. Former CDC Director Robert Redfield told Fox News during a Monday interview that after viewing classified information related to the origins of the pandemic, he believes that stupid 19 came from the okay, I gotta try to do this right. The Institute of Virology at the city of origin in the country of origin that shall not be named. Wuhan. Redfield began the interview by dispelling the notion that SARS-CoV-2 was a SARS-like virus and said that the public health response was wrong because officials assumed that it was going to be like SARS. When asked if he thought that the coronavirus came from a lab, Redfield said, well, my professional opinion is, as a virologist, is that the hypothesis I support. Well, good. You and Jon Stewart are on the same page. He said, I had a very high security clearance to work with the State Department and the National Security Group, including the Secretary Pompeo, where we reviewed material together to try to help him understand what it meant scientifically, he said. I don't know if he also asked Dr. Fauci, who funded the research, to do the same, but I would say I had probably the highest clearance within the agencies, within the Department of Health and Human Services, and therefore was privy to a lot of information, some of which has now been declassified. Oh, just now? Well, good. And I think as you see more and more of it declassified, people start saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we ought to look at this other hypothesis, at least with some rigor, he continued. And then, unfortunately, like I mentioned, those scientists and Lancet decided to almost try to power play you with this is the only way you can think. Oh, and social media companies too, because they used to take you off social media and delete your videos if you mentioned this theory, because they didn't want you to hear the other theory. Anyway, and I think we're seeing now that there's an opening of the scientific community to say, wait a minute, we need to look at both possibilities and we need to be scientific about this. So anyway, you know, I'm still waiting for that bus that they're about to throw Dr. Anthony Fauci under. You can read the rest of that article yourself, but yeah, he goes on about it. But yeah, he's thinking that, hey, lab leak theory is starting to look a little bit better. And thank you, Jon Stewart, for allowing us to use that theory and not be kicked off of social media. Because did you see how now I know most of you saw that video of Jon Stewart. Did you see how uncomfortable Stephen Colbert looked during that interview? Like, oh shit, I'm not sure. He even mentioned, oh yeah, if any of this makes it from the cutting room floor. Well, they showed the whole damn thing on YouTube, so I'm good for them. Anyway, now in other COVID news, GOP legislation is aiming to punish China for COVID lies. Legislators target Beijing in the fight to discover the origins of stupid 19. House Republicans are targeting the Chinese Communist Party for covering up the origins of the coronavirus pandemic and allowing it to escape in the city of Wuhan, killing millions across the globe. Representatives Rob Whitman from Virginia and Wagner from Missouri introduced bills Tuesday that order the imposition of global Magnitsky sanctions on Chinese Communist Party officials and health authorities, the same sanctions that are used to punish human rights abusers worldwide. Hey, give them a hand. Hello, Sapphire Dragon. The World Deserves to Know Act, introduced by Whitman, would investigate research funding from the National Institutes of Health. Uh-oh, here comes that bus. Here comes that bus, Dr. Fauci. That may have played a role in the outbreak, applying pressure on efforts to discover the stupid virus origins. The measure also proposes banning future cooperation between U.S. colleges and Chinese research institutions that may have been implicated in the early stages of the stupid 19 outbreak. Whitman said the act will pave the way to uncover the truth about the stupid 19 in order to prevent a future pandemic. Well, you know, I don't know. Are they going to get some Democrats on board with this? You know, it's about time that we kind of do. They need a Democratic sponsor for this bill. Also, the Compensation for American Act, introduced by Wagner, would redouble calls to sanction certain members of the Chinese Communist Party and establish a fund for the families of U.S. victims of the stupid 19. The bill would also strip China of its developing nation status at the World Trade Organization and bar investment of U.S. pensions in China, among other economic punishments. Well, they should have done that a long time ago. Anyway, if you want to read more about that, it'll be in the link down below. Let's keep going. What's a conspiracy theory? Vaccine passports just deployed in Europe, and CNN wants Americans to sign up too. I'm in the camp of kiss my whole black ass. Anyway, the idea of vaccine or health passports, once labeled as a conspiracy theory, I don't even have a sound for that.
You know the thing.
The EU for millions of Europeans, it is an authoritarian nightmare now coming true. The EU Digital COVID Certificate, or EU-DCC, was unveiled in June to little fanfare and scarce media scrutiny. The digital version can be stored on a mobile device, and EU citizens request a paper version. Both contain a QR code with extremely private information, as well as a digital signature. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen oh, there's a joke in there somewhere. Ursula von der Leyen announced today the European Digital COVID Certificate reassures us of the spirit of an open Europe, a Europe without barriers, but also a Europe that is slowly but surely opening up from after most difficult times of the pandemic. This certificate is a symbol of an open and digital Europe. We developed the certificate in record time. Yeah, everything developed in record time is not a good idea. I'm sorry. It will make travel in our union easier, and it will give Europeans back the freedoms they value and cherish so much. Okay, in layman's terms, I'm going to answer, what's her name? Ursula von der Leyen. Fuck off. It'll make it easier. Yes, it'll make travel easier. No, it won't. It will leave a lot of people behind. Ursula?
Your life makes me sad.
Fuck right off. Oh, here it is. Here's a video. Is she saying this in English? Oh, it's 2 minutes long. And is there okay, here, let's see. No, fuck it. We know what she said. We don't need to watch it. F that. I guess I won't be traveling to Europe anytime soon. I'm sure they'll have them in Canada though too. And I need to travel to Canada twice this year. I want to go see the waterfalls at Thunder Bay, and we're supposed to go to Nova Scotia to see the town that my wife's great grandfather founded. The home he built is still in what's it called? What's the name of the town? It's in now I'm blanking out. It's something Williamsburg, Nova Scotia. No, it's something else. Anyway, we wanted to go to the town and see the house that he built. It's still there. It's a landmark in this little town of Nova Scotia, the town named after him. But we can't go because you can't travel to Canada without quarantining for 2 weeks. Even if I'm just going to go see a waterfall for 2 hours, you got to quarantine for 2 weeks to go into Canada right now. It sucks. Any Canadians here? Oh, Pincalo's here. Yeah, the waterfall in Thunder Bay. It's supposed to be huge. It's like almost Niagara-esque. There are lots on the way. Oh no, we've been to all the. There's on the, the roads. What, it's 61 or 63 that goes up along the North Shore and the Minnesota side of the border. Oh, we did a whole tour of waterfalls there. We went to like 17 of them. So no, there's waterfalls all along that stretch of Lake Superior, and they are beautiful. And we want to see as many as we can. We want to go on the Canada side and see the ones there now, but we can't because you got to quarantine for 2 weeks to just go into Canada for 2 hours. So it sucks. Anyway, yeah, F that shit. I gotta tell you, provinces are starting to open slowly. Well, let's hope. I want to do that sometime in the next year or two. Also, so getting into that thing that Jon Stewart was talking about the other day, sometimes a coincidence isn't a coincidence. Coincidences are interesting things. They're considered remarkable because their combined occurrence seems improbable, but sometimes improbable occurrences really happen. Lightning really has struck the same location twice on rare occasions. When coincidences start to stack up, their probability of jointly occurring becomes exceedingly low. One begins to wonder if they are not coincidences at all. Could they really be linked to outcomes from the same underlying root cause? Let me just thank you, GunFox61. Another almost 5. LOL, history repeats. Europe sounds like a return to the 1930s. Yes, it's uncanny, isn't it, Gunfox? I gotta tell you. Thank you again for sponsoring the show. So about these coincidences, in the past year and a half, we have witnessed a remarkable string of apparent coincidences. Dr. Fauci sponsored gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Put simply, this work increases the virus's ability to cause disease. It makes a virus more dangerous. Coincidentally, we're now learning that stupid 19 originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. What a coincidence. The stupid 19 virus spread throughout the world in the early months of 2020. Coincidentally, this is the same time that Donald Trump was ratcheting up sanctions against China.
China is asshole.
And rallying worldwide support. The pandemic resulting from Stupid-19 was used as rationale for fundamental changes to our election process. These changes facilitated the most questionable election outcome in U.S. history. 51% of the population now believes that fraud affected the election outcome, and that number is growing. Coincidentally, the election of 2020 neutralized China's biggest threat, President Donald J. Trump. Hello, TW and Sapphire Dragon. Unhypnagogic Monk, welcome. The beneficiary of the compromise election of 2020 is Joe Biden. Coincidentally, old Joe has deep and troubling financial connections to China. His son Hunter accompanied him to China when Joe was the vice president and subsequently made millions of dollars from Chinese-sponsored business ventures. The emails for Hunter's abandoned laptop, indicate that Joe was the recipient of a sizable portion of those proceeds. What a coincidence.
Come on, man.
In the past week, we learned that the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, has a high-level defector from China, whom they're not sharing with the FBI or CIA. This defector is to providing evidence that Stupid-19 was not only created in the Wuhan lab, but may have been deliberately leaked by the Chinese. This revelation, coincidentally, came at the same time the FBI was working to discredit scientists claiming the virus was created in a lab. What a coincidence! Representative Matt Gaetz aggressively questioned FBI Director Christopher Wray about the FBI's behavior relative to Stupid-19 scientific whistleblowers. Shortly after this questioning, the press began a series of stories insinuating that Gaetz had inappropriate relationships with underage girls, though no evidence has yet been presented. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Coincidentally, this all is happening at a time when China is making substantial investments in American property and businesses. After its behavior during the last year, is there any doubt that the NBA is beholden to China? No, that's just a coincidence. The news media has run cover for China as well, claiming that any attempt to tie them to the pandemic is racism.
That's racist!
There are also the land purchases. China bought 180,000 acres, or 280 square miles, in Texas. They say they're building a wind farm, but the property has a 5,000-foot runway, which they are expanding, and it's adjacent to a busy U.S. military base. I'm sure the location is just a coincidence. This seems that an unbelievable number of happenstance occurrences have all benefited China. Is it possible that these events are not coincidences at all, but are rather engineered outcomes to support a higher objective? If so, it raises a number of questions. Are the FBI and CIA hopelessly compromised? Is it possible that the organizations which supported a coup attempt against an elected president can't be trusted with national security? This is getting a little saucy for my taste. Is it possible that the organization, they're certainly no longer the premier law enforcement and intelligence agencies they claim to be. They have too many failures to be a premier anything except maybe a clown show. Are they incompetent, corrupt, or have they been infiltrated? It probably doesn't matter, since incompetence and corruption invites infiltration. And where does the support for Antifa and BLM originate? They're both doing their part to destabilize America. BLM is led by self-professed Marxists, making them useful idiots, or is that just a coincidence too? Antifa seems to believe in nothing but anarchy, making them useful thugs. Whenever members of either group are arrested, there's plenty of money to bail them out from somewhere. How beholden to China is the news and entertainment industry? I noticed that those taking a knee for a national anthem haven't uttered a word of criticism against China's use of slavery. News organizations called Trump a racist for characterizing Stupid-19 as the Chinese virus.
China is asshole.
Even though naming viruses by their point of origin is commonplace. Does China have any inappropriate influence over Joe Biden? We know his family has received millions of dollars from China, and there is evidence he has shared in that bounty. Is our president vulnerable to blackmail? Have we been under attack from China and we didn't know it because our intelligence and political leadership swore to defend the United States but really had other priorities? Clearly, we don't know the answers to these questions, but if China decides to act as its own on its own expansionist ambitions, our intelligence community is unlikely to provide any warning. Likewise, our current political leadership is unlikely to take any meaningful action. But maybe this is all just crazy conspiracy thinking. Perhaps everything we've experienced since the early last year is just an astronomical, unlikely confluence of random events. But isn't it interesting that these events have left America disengaged at the very time China is expanding its global influence? One final question. If China wanted to neutralize America, could they have done it any better by some other means? That's by someone named John Green, an American thinker. I gotta tell you, it's just a coincidence, right? All right. Guys, I'm going to call it a day because I'm going to go play a round of golf with my son, which I haven't done yet in this year. In fact, I haven't even dug out my clubs yet this year. Why is this not coming off of here? But there's now there are some other articles that'll be in the links. GOP House representatives file lawsuit claiming Pelosi targeted Republicans with the security protocols. So they're Louis Gohmert and Andrew Clyde filed a lawsuit asserting that new security protocols put in place by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, are not being uniformly applied to Republicans and Democrats. Pretty much she's just fighting the Republicans, just FYI. Also an article from the CNS News. Biden condemns Trump's phony populism, saying GOP is vastly diminished. Then COVID shots. Anyway, he's over meeting at NATO, and a Washington Post reporter asked President Biden what he would say to allies who are pretty rattled by what happened on January 6th. What allies are rattled by what happened on January 6th? You know what? Trump is still inside their heads. But anyway, and may still be alarmed by the continued hold Donald Trump has over the Republican Party. I'll put this on the screen here. And the rise of nationalist figures like him around the world. Really? I don't know. Anyway, let's listen to his answer. His answer's crap here.
Ann Guerin, The Washington Post.
Thank you, Mr. President. Here at this meeting and earlier at the G7, you've said several times that America is back at allies' side. But a lot of those allies are themselves pretty rattled by what happened on January 6th.
Are they rattled? I don't think so. I think they've seen it for what it is. And especially a lot of these allies that are supposedly rattled. Have you ever seen the protests that happened in their countries? Oh, I don't know if they're all that rattled.
Overturning of your election.
Oh my
and they
God.
may still be alarmed.
I think they're more alarmed by Biden's lack of clarity and maybe his little sundowner problem that he's having while over at the G7. But I digress. Let's listen to the rest of this.
By the continued hold that Donald Trump has over the Republican Party and the rise of nationalist figures like him around the world. What do you say to those allies? What have you been saying to them at these meetings about how the next president of the United States can keep any promises you make?
Okay. I only wanted you to hear the question, how the question's leading, okay? The question comes off as Trump bad, okay? And that world leaders are you know, how Joe's new, you know, the savior of us all from Trump. It's such, well, here's what he's responded. Responding to the immediate question about promises Biden makes, he said, people, meaning NATO allies, don't doubt that I mean what I say, and they believe that I keep my commitments when I say it. I'm not making any promises to anyone that I don't believe are overwhelmingly likely to be kept. I think, okay, do I want to listen? You got to listen to this answer, but it's about 5 minutes long and I don't have time for it. But it's in the link. It'll be in the link down below. You got to listen to it though. Also, now Trump Jr. names his pick for 2024 if his dad doesn't run. So Trump's going to be playing kingmakers. Well, let's see. Donald Trump said, who did he say? They asked if his father will run in 2024. He replied with a laugh. You'll have to ask him. But so the Examiner turned to the potential primary field without Donald Trump, and he said he likes Ron DeSantis. Now, who's the press been doing a lot of dirty work on for the last several months? Ron DeSantis. They're terrified of Ron DeSantis because Ron DeSantis, you ask him a question, he answers you very succinctly and very competently. And Republicans, whether they're Trump Republicans or not Trump Republicans, all seem to like Ron DeSantis. So that's going to be very interesting if that's, Trump Jr. says, I think he's a case study right now on how to, the former president said that DeSantis has certainly a very bright continuing future, whether that's with my father, whether that's if my father doesn't run on his own. A little foreshadowing. Anyway, other articles, Democrats, Val Deming says, shameful DeSantis. GOP would want to stop paying people more to stay at home than to work. Yeah, let's stop paying people to stay at home. Stop paying people to stay home. She's running for Senate in Florida, by the way, and saying her state's GOP Governor Ron DeSantis and Republicans like her opponent, Senator Marco Rubio, for a move to cut off federal unemployment insurance benefits that have for months paid people more money to stay at home than to work. Deming said in an interview on MSNBC's Chris Hayes, I really think it's pretty shameful, and thank you for mention that it is supported by Marco Rubio. Look, 2020 was a tough year. We lost 600,000 people. We also know that hundreds of thousands of people were put out of work through no fault of their own. Well, hey, let's get them back to work, Val. Instead of paying them to not work, how about we get them back to work? Those unemployment benefits were there to help people who weren't in trouble. The people who are going to work every day, by the way, who were in trouble, though, through no fault of their own. Now, I believe that we have an obligation to do that, but not only to help them during tough times, but it also helps them to be able to pay their bills, to be able to buy groceries, to be able to pay their rent. Hey, so does a job that they can go back to. Which stimulates our economy. No, it drags our economy by putting way too much money into the system and causes inflation. 9% over the last 2 months. Not good. So I really think it's shameful what governors around this nation are doing, but also senators from Florida and senators from other states. Government's primary responsibility is to help the American people through some of the toughest times. Marco Rubio chose not to do that, and too many others choose not to do that. That's why we need to change the kind of people we send to Congress. Bullshit. No. It's not the government's job to help people through the toughest times. It's people's job to help themselves through the toughest times. And the only reason we've had this stupid ass stimulus is because the government is forced to shut us down. Guess what? Open it up. Stop paying people to not work. Let people help themselves through these toughest times. Next. Also, Federalist articles. China sends dozens of fighter jets into Taiwan's airspace. This is not good. You take a gander at this article if you get a chance. It'll be in the link down below. Also, Israel launches airstrikes in Gaza in response to arson attacks. Now, it's funny because as I read about this on Twitter and some other media outlets, they just said Israel just broke the ceasefire, right, and started launching attacks into Gaza. Oh, wait. Now, and I don't care what you think about Israel. Israel doesn't just attack for no reason whatsoever, because what happened is they had some incendiary devices launched from the territory, these balloons that drop, fire bombs into Israel. So Israel retaliated. Read the article. Also, from Legal Insurrection. White House walks back Biden's remark about swapping cyber criminals with Russia. So he made this thing that they were going to try to have a cyber criminal exchange, right? And so Biden said, yeah, we want to bring some of these Russians over there that hacked the 2016 election, which they really didn't. And then he wants to get them over here to face charges. And Putin's like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to do that, then we also want your criminal hackers to come over to Russia to face the judges. And the White House is like, oh, no. Biden was talking out of his ass, and he wasn't using the right cue cards, so never mind. You can read that one too. Also, U.S. manufacturing. The economy's stupid. It's the economy, stupid. And yes, we are dealing with the stupid economy, as in the stupid guy at the top. U.S. manufacturers battered by a third month of Biden inflation. U.S. manufacturing sector is getting battered by high levels of inflation and the cost of inputs that businesses are struggling to pass on to customers. The prices of materials and components used by manufacturers rose by 2.4% compared with April, a blazing hot level of inflation rarely experienced before the current bout of rising prices. You can read about that one in the tabs. Also, in the Federalist, retail sales tank as prices continue to skyrocket due to inflation. Have you noticed it at the grocery store? Because I haven't bought any clothes lately, but I've certainly noticed that the price of beef, chicken, all kinds of goods, milk hasn't gone up that bad, but eggs have gone up. I see it every day when I go shopping. You can't buy beef right now. It's just out of hand. If you don't buy it at Sam's Club or Costco, you forget it. We're talking like, even now, I just always notice the price of the highest price steaks, okay? Not that I buy them all the time, but I always look at those first. And it's like $19.99 a pound, $22 a pound for like a T-bone or a porterhouse, and it's ridiculous. It's like, I'm not paying $22 for a steak. I'm just hoping, and I haven't noticed it as much as restaurants, although look, if you go to McDonald's and you buy a meal and it costs you $10, $12, something's wrong. Of course, not at McDonald's. It's crazy. Shit's crazy. It's crazy. All right, you can check that out too. Let's see. Shock video of brazen shoplifting in Democratic-run San Francisco. Yeah, you've all seen the shoplifter in San Francisco. That's because they have now any theft that takes less than $950 in San Francisco. It's what's the law? It's a new law in California that it's a simple misdemeanor now instead of felony. So a lot of these people just aren't even giving a shit. Oh, Cynthia Nixon said something about it. Let's see, worth noting that several candidates in Manhattan DA for New York City mayor now say shoplifting should not be prosecuted because that's criminalizing poverty. Cynthia Nixon. Remember her? Did she run for mayor of New York? The CVS in my corner has just started locking up basic items like clothing detergent. As so many families can't make ends meet right now, I can't imagine thinking that's the way to solve the problem of people stealing basic necessities out of desperation and to prosecute them. Now, let's talk about some bullshit. Okay? In California, they have a new task force in California, where they have raided this gigantic, like they raided the several homes, buildings, whatever. There's a kingpin out there. Like these guys who come in and steal from the Walgreens and CVS in California. What they do, there's guys on the street who buy that stuff for $1 an item. Okay, so because California has this law that if it's not $950 worth of stuff, they're not really chasing you down. It's a misdemeanor, and the police are just don't even care. So these guys come in with bags, and they come and shoplift like hundreds of, up to a bunch of items. And they take this bag, and then they go to the guy who, the guy in the corner, right? And the guy in the corner buys them for $1 a piece, right? The $1 an item, whatever it is. And they like small items. They like deodorant and just necessity stuff, right? They buy it from this guy. And they have this guy who's almost like a distributor. So they take this guy who buys all the items for $1 a piece, take it to this other guy who they have warehouses full of this crap. Okay, that crap, a lot of items, scope, foot spray, powder, anything that you can buy off the shelves at a Walgreens, right? And then they turn around and sell them on Amazon and all these different websites, right? And they're making beaucoup, millions and millions of dollars. Well, there was a big raid on one of these guys, and they had to buy a 200,000 square foot warehouse where they seized enough items to fill a freaking warehouse, 200,000 square feet, just from one of these, criminals who are buying this shit for the people on the streets. So, and so it hurts everybody because the people who are actually buying the stuff from the local marts are getting screwed because they keep having to raise prices for all the stolen shit. And now you got Cynthia Nixon talking about how, this is so sad for the people who are just trying to make ends meet. I got an idea. Stop paying people to stay home and work and stop. And how about allowing these people to stop the criminals? How's that sound? I'd rather just stop the criminals. But no, we can't because they're poor and they can't do this and that. No, whatever. So fuck right off. All right. Anyway, you can read about that one. Let's see. What else do I got in the tabs? Crime is the new reparations. On that note, so there's a whole, this PJ Media thing is also talking about the shoplifting problem in San Francisco. Crime is the new reparations. So blame the conservatives. We all know black people are constant victims of conservative white suppression and racism because we're reminded every day by the far left media as the sheep that graze on and then regurgitate their ridiculous conspiracy theories. Black folks are held back by white supremacy. Evil Republican politicians won't allow for federally funded reparations. So what else can the lefty apologists offer? Hey, how about start treating us just like normal people who can do our own shit and make our own money and stop pretending like we're helpless. How's that sound? You liberal hacks. Black crimes matter. So go ahead and commit crimes. Lefty cities won't charge you bail. That's racist. That's racist. And they'll let you walk and they'll let you walk. So if you're already in a systemically racist jail, they will let you out. The media won't report your crime, and the Democrats will decriminalize those pesky laws that get in the way of you taking what you deserve. You can't lose a night's work if some bigoted cop arrests you for purloining a pair of Air Jordans. You're entitled if you're the right color because, slavery and Jim Crow. This country owes you. If anything mentions crime, like Colin Flaherty, author of Don't Make the Black Kids Angry or White Girl Bleed a Lot, the knockout game, a lie. Oh, hell no. The leftists will deplatform him at every chance. Reparations, a sympathy kiss from the left. Okay, it's a good article. Just read it. It's kind of cracks me up. Hello, Gamer Lean. Nice to see you. And then finally, the other ones here. What was this one? Federal judge orders Biden administration to halt the oil and gas leasing ban. This is going to be an interesting fight, whether the executive can do this or not. The federal judge ordered the federal government to halt its ban on new oil and gas leases in a major setback for the President Joe Biden's administration. I'm sure this is going to get into the other courts. This is going to be interesting. Judge Terry Doughty of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana granted a preliminary injunction that has been requested by a large coalition of Republican states attorney general. In an order released Tuesday evening, the Department of the Interior is prohibited from enforcing the oil and gas leasing ban until the case is concluded, according to the order. This is a victory not only for the rule of law, but also for thousands of workers who produce affordable energy for Americans. Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry said in a statement shared with the Daily Caller News Foundation, "We appreciate the federal courts have recognized President Biden is completely outside his authority in his attempt to shut down oil and gas leases on federal land." There's a battle brewing on this one. It's going to be interesting if this goes through the courts and gets up to the Supreme Court, because I don't know. I mean, who's in charge of that? Who can decide whether or not that happens? Does that have to go through Congress, or is this just going to be some executive regulatory thing that they're going to do? All right, finishing up. I'm going to try to get this gal on my show. Just talking about walking on eggshells, living on the edge in Minneapolis. This is, there's an area of town where all this shit is happening in Minneapolis. It's not the entire city, okay? The entire city of Minneapolis is not on fire. It isn't all shut down, but the city of Minneapolis has areas where you just don't really want to be. One of those areas is the area my son lives in, and it makes me nervous, but Thankfully, they're going to be moving soon. But what happened is there was a vehicle that drove into a group of protesters, and 2 people were injured. One of them later died in the hospital. Angry demonstrators pulled the driver out, and witness said started hitting him. Officers got to the scene, took the driver into custody, and brought him to the hospital to treat the injuries. Preliminary investigation indicates the use of drugs and alcohol by the driver may have been a contributing factor in his crash, according to police. But Minneapolis has become a bit of a hot zone or a war zone. On June 4th, U.S. Marshals cornered a fugitive on the top of a parking garage. According to reports, he was approached by members of a law enforcement task force and on a warrant for a felon in possession of a firearm. After refusing to comply with officers' directions, he produced a handgun and was shot. There is no body camera footage of the shooting. An all too familiar scene in post-Trump America followed the shooting. More unrest, more protests, more public vandalism and arson. Never-ending world as we know it. 9 people were arrested that night on possible charges, including suspicion of riot, assault, arson, and damage to property. And the protests haven't let up. Protesters created a road blockade with their cars in the uptown neighborhood. They were occupying it, they said, which is where the incident occurred Sunday night. And this is about just her story about living on the edge of Minneapolis. She lives right in that area. There's an area called Uptown, and then parts of downtown that are just, this is where all the protesting's going on. And, people are just not dealing with it well. It's a really good article. I read it earlier this morning, not on the show, but just read it. And basically, she's telling her story of living in that area. It's just not... it's funny because she's talking about how, there's drug addicts, prostitutes, beggars, bums. I mean, people in tent cities. And she's just trying to live through this. And then her liberal friends keep telling her about her white privilege. Okay. And so it's just the whole gist of this article is that liberal politics are bad for business. And I don't know what's going to happen in these areas of Minneapolis. Business are going to leave. Businesses are already leaving. They're saying, fuck it, we're not staying here. And it's not good for the people who try to live and survive that area. So you got to read this article. It's a human event story. And again, I'm going to try to get her on my show because I think it's really well written. She's also a person who... she survived, I think, a stroke. What did she survived, what was it? Brain aneurysm. And so she does some charity work for a brain aneurysm foundation. Thank you, Gamer Valine, with the almost 5, saying they should make the same ruling every time the ATF makes new rules or changes the rules. They aren't a legislative body. They are enforcement. Oh, straight up. I agree with you there. Straight up. So anyway, thank you, Gamer Valine, for sponsoring the show and the channel and your continued support. You know how much I love you, dear. All right. And then the last 2 articles that are going to be in the links is this one. Top Navy officer refuses to condemn the idea that white people created HIV in a testing exchange over critical race theory. Let's just watch this. This is very short. Oh no, it's 5 minutes long. Let's just put it this way. The question that one of the people asked, one of the, who is it, Banks? Representative Jim Banks asked this officer, do you personally consider the conspiracy theory that white people started AIDS to be an extremist belief? Banks asked Gidley. The question referenced a college newspaper column written by Ibrahim X. Kendi. You know who that is. So Banks submitted a letter to Gilday demanding that the Navy explain why the book was included on the reading list. He's one of many Republicans who frequently criticize the U.S. military inclusion of books that promote concepts like critical race theory. So Banks says that is a simple question, Admiral. This is a book that you recommend to every sailor in the U.S. Navy to read. Gilday then pivoted to a series of left-wing talking points about racism in America. Quote, this is a bigger issue than Kendi's book. What this is really about is painting the U.S. military, in this case, the U.S. Navy, as weak, as woke. And we had sailors that spent 341 days at sea last year with minimal port visits. That's not what he asked. Our strength is our diversity, and our sailors understand that. False. The strength of the U.S. military is that everyone works as a single team with a single mindset, regardless of your diversity. The diversity is not your strength in any military situation. Your strength is the unanimity of purpose. And your diversity is just a thing that happens. It's like a stew, but with all one direction. Diversity is not a strength of the U.S. military. It's just a fact. But he says, our strength is in our diversity, and our sailors understand that, he added. Racism in the U.S. is a very complex issue. What we benefit from is an open discussion about those issues, that we don't try to ignore and rewrite it, that we actually have a discussion about it, and there will be various views, and I trust the sailors will come to an understanding of hopefully separating from fact from fiction. No, it is not. It is not. Diversity is not the strength of the military. When you're in a unit, your unit has one purpose, and the diversity is irrelevant. Okay, in fact, the lack of diversity of purpose is your only is the most important part of your unit cohesiveness. Anyway, and then the last one, what was this one? Biden is determined to create jobs in China. Okay, you can read that one on your own. Anyway, gang, I got to call this a day because this one went way longer than I was expecting. So hopefully you have a great afternoon. I will be back tomorrow morning on my normal time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT, from the Lucky Dawg studio here in my basement. And I'll have the flag waving. I'll have the flags all over the place, and it'll be just a good thing. So anyway, thanks everyone who hung out with me today. If you like what you see, hit the like button. Share the stream out, even after the fact. And if you'd be so kind, if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that through Streamlabs, YouTube SuperChats, Venmo, Cashapp, all those things in the description down below. Also, after the show, I will put links to every article and video and everything else that we talked about today, both this morning and this afternoon. It'll be in a single link called the One Tab link right below the description of this video, about one paragraph down from the top. So that's it for today, people. I really need to leave because I'm going to go play golf with my son. So you guys have a great afternoon. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Thanks for being here. My name is PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cashapp, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.